Thank you so much for joining us at the launch party for Checkmates, a collection of fiction, poetry, and artwork about obsessive-compulsive disorder by people with OCD. Available on Amazon from 11th May. Okay? Okay, so first, talk a bit about it. As the name would suggest, OCD is made up of two parts, obsessions and compulsions. Obsessions are basically things you can't stop thinking about or worrying may happen. For example, a person might be chopping onions one evening and think, what if the knife slipped and I cut myself? The obsessive compulsive would then start worrying that the knife will slip, or worrying that so much that the image becomes increasingly graphic until it's unbearable. Or I could add to this speech, sometimes worrying they've already done it, and not realizing it. So the compulsion then would be if that same person just dropped the knife and couldn't continue with what they were doing. So that's a way of trying to counteract it. Or they might come up with something like tapping rituals or mantras or something like that to try to prevent things from happening, like a good luck charm. So most people, though, when they talk about OCD, they really only talk about the contamination form of it. But the truth is, there are countless obsessions out there, including hoarding, checking, washing, tidying, straightening, counting, dwelling, picking, so forth.
Thinking.
Yeah, thinking. Thank you very much. Yeah, overthinking, obsessive ruminations, they call that. So it's profoundly complicated, and some people are only marginally affected, but others are actually incapable of leaving their homes because they're so convinced if they go outside they're going to hurt somebody, even though they never would. So Checkmates came about 2 years ago when I submitted a short story called The Royal Bank of Scotland, not about the bank, for peer review on an online writing community. The general response seemed to be confusion, to be honest. Readers seemed like they didn't understand my alternative reality geared completely around OCD life. One reader finally caught what was going on and said he really liked it, and I thought, well, maybe it's not just my writing, it's just people aren't really getting where I'm coming from. So I wanted to find a place where you find, just like a home for writers like us, in that sense, so that we could make people understand where we were coming from. A group of about 20 of us from all over the world thought this needs to change. We met on a website called OCD Tribe, which is a bit like MySpace, but completely for people with obsessive-compulsive disorder. And together, I think we've made something unique. Well, we have, because it's the only thing in existence of its kind. It's the first ever collection of fiction and poetry about life with OCD, and we wound up having it really beautifully illustrated as well. So, the book is split into two halves. In realism, you get a feel for what it's like to battle with OCD in everyday life. In Beyond, we've got the absurdity and horror of OCD driven straight home through metaphor and fantasy, sci-fi, horror, that kind of thing. The book also showcases a wide range of emotions: love, hate, joy, rage, fear, sorrow, hope, and optimism, and humor. Okay, so I think everybody's going to find something that they can relate to in it, whether they have it, whether they don't, whether they know someone who has it. On some level, there's something there. What it really doesn't do is shy away from the truth. Every angle is covered, no matter how painful, but I hope you'll agree it makes it a very, very startling and moving read. Because you're all going to get it. Tuesday, May 11th, Amazon. And also, to sweeten the deal, part of the proceeds are going to charity.
Yay!
So we've got 3 contributors here today. That's Beth over there, she's D. And that's Sharon, she's C. And we're each going to read a poem and a little excerpt from a story from the book. But we're going to have an intermission in between so people don't get fatigued. But just before I do that, if anybody's interested, I wanted to ask if anybody else here who happens to have OCD would be happy to come up and speak for a few minutes. Thank you, Jimmy, for being true to your word. So this is Jimmy, who's made his own Tourette's website, which is with a largely growing population, so very cool.
I was 48 when I was diagnosed with Tourette's and OCD and ADHD. I also get lots of anxiety. Got some sort of dyslexic thing as well. Going back to, I don't know, about 1983, 84, I remember my ex-wife saying to me, there's a television programme on tonight about some man with obsessive compulsive disorder. What is obsessive compulsive disorder? He does what you do. What do I do? Well, it takes us an hour to get out of the house every day because you go around checking the windows, the plugs, the locks, and all this stuff, and you're always doing this with your shoes and whatever else. I wouldn't say it's restricted my life at all in any way. It's just made it a bit weird, mainly for other people, I think, because they can't really understand why we do certain things that we do, you know, why it takes me so long to get out of the house. I can't plan, I get stuck. My wife's sitting outside in the car, waiting for us to go off on holiday or something, and I'm gone for 15-20 minutes, she'll come up and there I am in the middle of the room. I'm stuck, I don't know what I came up here for, blah blah. Thoughts, they drive me crazy, you know, I get tortured and tormented by thoughts of the past, things that I might have said or done towards anybody, and I relive the moment over and over.
And Sharon compiled just a few quotes from some people on OCD Tribe who were happy for us to share what they said about it. So just some of the short ones. So one person said, ever since I can remember, I feel like I have an invisible twin, and sometimes we get along with each other, and sometimes I wonder if it's illegal to kill somebody nobody knows exists. So, a little bit of personification there. Somebody else says it requires a constant effort to overcome the thoughts and not allow it to limit my daily rituals. And somebody else just basically succinctly says pure O, which is intrusive thoughts, is like living in your own little hell. So, being a little bit upbeat here. Now, do a bit of reading here. First, it's going to be Sharon doing the first reading. So I'm going to let her. Applause. I was going to say also, given the nature of everything, I meant to say, we've got people up here with like social anxiety, dyslexia, things like that. So if there are little pauses, just bear with us. It's been really, really big of us trying to come up here and talk to a group of people. So I appreciate your patience with all three of us.
Hi guys. Hi Sharon. I'm going to read Imagine by Christian. Christian lives in New Jersey and is currently 18. Although she wrote the following poem when she was 15. Imagine getting dressed in the morning, then realising you did it wrong, and that you have to take off your clothes and start over and over and over again. Imagine having to tap your foot in a 16-beat pattern while other people watch, half amused, half freaked out. Imagine being forced to keep it going for hours and hours and even more hours. Imagine becoming stuck in front of a mirror, staring at imperfection that no other humans would notice, unable to move as the minutes tick by and by and by. Imagine being fired from work because all these other things you do. Imagine being alienated from people around you because everybody thinks you're weird. Imagine dealing with the monstrous OCD until you die, until you die, until you die. Now going to read Founder of Conditional Scotland by Vrinda. Vrinda was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome at the age of 7 and discovered by 14 that she also has OCD. Then over the last 2 years, Vrinda discovered she also had ADHD, a mood disorder, and high functionality autism, the Royal Bank of Scotland. She never actually attempted suicide herself, so she can't fully relate to the others. But some years ago, she started considering it, and then never could shake the thought. Last night, for instance, as she brushed her long black hair exactly 100 times before bed, 53, 54, 55, 56, she hoped perhaps those deathly visions would be yanked out with her hair, drop to the floor, get vacuumed up, and disappear at last. But as usual, it didn't happen. When it first started, she imagined it every way possible. It was overwhelming, so after a while she settled on a few favourites. Stepping in front of a traffic, drowning in the bath, falling down on a flight of stairs, or into a train track. No guns, no hanging herself. The effort involved in buying a gun or tying up a noose was just too much, too complicated, too much energy. On the other hand, how easy it would be to step forward, to sink or to fall.
Thank you very much. You did really well. Yeah? Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to read something by Sharon, a poem by Sharon, and then after that we're going to have a little intermission. Okay? She loves reading, especially fantasy and vampire stories, and Dale's there you go. See, battles daily with dyslexia, a bit like me at the moment, depression, and of course OCD. Some of her biggest foes are contamination fears, hoarding, and the need for routines and organization. In this poem, she reflects on meeting others like herself and the peace of mind it has brought her. This is called Something to Say. There are times in your life when you feel so alone, not knowing where the road is going. When you wake in the middle of the night, feeling that something isn't right. There are weeks in your life when things get you down, feel like you're drowning but you have both feet on the ground, struggling for breath, trying to break free from the chains that you know are called OCD. The demons, they taunt you and fill your head with all things bad that leave you full of dread, never knowing if the time will come when you'll be able to beat them one by one. OCD, just 3 letters when you break it down, but the smallest things are sometimes hardest to knock down. Millions of us suffer from imagined germs or savage thoughts that make us feel vulnerable without anyone to talk to or offer support. There is a place where we meet to discuss the things we dare not ever entrust to people who don't understand the thoughts and the pain. Think we should pull ourselves together for it all to go away? Others read our words and pass on their thoughts, even though sometimes it hurts because they don't know it's us. We live with the same people each day, each month, each year. But even then, we cannot always tell them of our darkness and our fears. It's hard not to judge because you don't see. We all have our problems and we all have our pain, but to judge others unfairly just increases that pain. So sit back and let them be free with those friends who relate, and let them know you are there by your side. Understand as best you can their anxiety and their fears. Be there with the tissues to wipe away their tears. This world is for all, and its door is always ajar. Just knock or ring the bell and your voice will always be heard. You may fall over or trip along the way, but isn't that life? Isn't that part of life and its rich tapestry? Treat others as you wish to be treated yourself, and those 3 little letters will in time sort themselves out. And now everybody can take a break.